Oh, sounds fine. Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. I just realized Tim Tuckett is not here. Let's do a prayer, but let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Gary, will you?
Gary?
Yeah, sorry. I just realized Tim.
I can't hear that far.
Will you be our chaplain for the day?
I'll be too. Dear Lord, thank you for another beautiful day to be here in the United States, and thank you for everybody getting here safely. There's probably a few that are not coming because of the weather. Thank you for the time we've had to celebrate holidays with families and to kind of sit back a little bit. Be with us as we look forward to serving our community and being appropriate for serving the needs of our community. Thank you for the food. Be with us on our travels as we leave this meeting. Amen. Amen.
All right, I'll try to make this somewhat brief. We got a few things to get through here on the business side of things before I turn it over to our speaker, but Happy New Year. First off, the next kind of event upcoming, January 13th, 6 to 8 p.m. Village Water Filter for the service project. Kelly, any other details or just text you or Shara? Yeah. Okay. So what's that, Monday? It's January 13th, a week from today, 6 to 8 p.m. Village Water Filters. That's on South Division. Also, as many of you probably saw, Kathy Obi passed away. This is, in case you're interested, this is not part of the Memorial Giving Fund. She wasn't an active member, but she was a longtime member years ago. Her son passed along the visitation and funeral service information. If anybody's interested, it is this Friday. It looks like there's two visitations, both at O'Brien, Egbeen, and Gerst Funeral Home, 2 to 4 p.m. and 6 to 8 p.m. And then says there's a mass at Marywood at 10:30 a.m. I assume that's also on Friday, but he didn't clarify. It's probably Saturday. Okay. So Saturday at 10:30 a.m. at Marywood. So keep that in mind and keep Kathy's son and family in your thoughts. Want to also plug a couple of other things. Actually, let me start with this. I'm going to start with this from our district governor. He sent us a note that we're to read. So I'm going to read this to you, and then I'll plug a few things. Dear fellow Lion Club members, I would like to extend my sincere and heartfelt thanks to each of you for your outstanding leadership and dedication during the first 6 months of the Lion year. Because of your club's commitment to service and your diligence in reporting those service projects on the Lion portal, our district now stands as one of only 13 districts to achieve 100% club service reporting. This is an accomplishment of which you and your club should be extremely proud. It reflects not only the incredible work being done in our communities, but also your understanding that service is only fully realized when it's shared, recorded, and celebrated. This achievement is especially meaningful this year. Our international president, Lion A.P. Singh of Kolkata, India, will be the keynote speaker at the MD11 convention, and his presidential theme, Lead to Serve, Serve to Lead, speaks directly to the heart of what you have done. His international project for this year is service, making your efforts to both perform and report service more important than ever. Not just this year, but every year. By ensuring the service projects you reported, you have amplified the impact of your club's strengthened our district and demonstrated true Lion leaderships. Your actions show the world who Lions are and what we stand for. Thank you for your time, your dedication, and your unwavering commitment to serving others. It is an honor to serve alongside leaders like you. Yours in service, District Governor Earl Howell. and I believe he's coming to speak March meeting. So 2 months from now. So thank you for all the service hours that we're all logging and reporting. That's what he's talking about. They're grateful to kind of be able to check that box for our district. So thank you for all the service hours that everybody in this room puts in. Speaking of service hours and service projects, I reached out to some of you guys, but we need a little help with the eyeglass pickup. We have eyeglass pickup locations around West Michigan, the little boxes where eyeglasses are donated, and then eventually taken to the Rockford Club for processing and donating. Right now, I've got still about 11 or so spots that pickup locations that there's a vacancy for. Most of those are on the west side of town and kind of the northern corridor, Comstock Park, Rockford area. If you live or frequent either of those areas and wouldn't mind picking up some eyeglasses on occasion, let me know. I kind of plug you in on all that. Gary, any update on the eyeglass recycling? I know the questions come up from a few people on, I know the container is full and people are kind of internalizing the inventory. Any
They're doing recycling twice a week, Monday nights and Wednesday afternoon. I'll get you those hours and the location. And then we're going to have a event where we're going to bring some trucks and cars and empty the truck and bring it all up to Rockford.
Okay.
Probably a Saturday. Would be the best.
Okay, so stay tuned for that. Those of you, I know there's a few of you that probably have boxes in your garage right now.
Yeah.
Another, this isn't service, but it's fundraising opportunity I alluded to. I have those Lions of Michigan Foundation raffle tickets. Don't have them here today. We'll have it at the February meeting. So, bring $20 and you get 2 tickets. It goes in the drawing. As a reminder, it's a fundraiser for the Lions of Michigan Foundation. It's also a fundraiser for us. We get about $3.50, I think it is, of every ticket we sell back into our club. And they do a club drawing. They do a national or a tickets drawing for, I think the top prize is $5,000. They also draw each club that sells tickets. So anyway, there's lots of opportunities, and if nothing else, it obviously goes to a good cause. So continuing along, read that. One more plug, I guess. Secretary position. We're still looking to fill that, and I know we've got a couple board seat vacancies upcoming too. So if anybody has an interest in the secretary role and or board of director role, please let myself or probably Jim is the best person to talk to. He's the incoming president and is kind of tasked with filling those board seats. So with that, am I missing anything? Is there any other items for the good of the club, Don?
Just wanted to let people know that the Family Promise event, that was the Christmas shopping event this year, went really well. I was able to attend and watch all the family shop, and it was really heartwarming. So
thank you for that, and thanks to Don and Ian and gosh, Dr. Baker, you guys put a lot of work into pivoting that pretty quickly. So that was grateful for that. Okay. With that, I think I'll turn it over to the tail twister. Mr. Lally, today's tail twister. I don't know if you want this.
starting at my table. You want to?
Happy Fox, apologies to our speaker, this may take till 1:30 though.
It's all right.
So I'm sorry we missed the holiday party, but we were in Belgium visiting our son, daughter-in-law, and 18-month granddaughter. Sounds exciting. Over the last month, our oldest daughter, who's turning 40 tomorrow, got engaged. So that was exciting. And go blue for Michigan basketball and the football coach, because Jamie's not here to say that.
Yeah, Rick, you gave me 20, but you got an engaged daughter. Do you want to still stick with the 20? Okay, happy bucks. I'm gonna collect cards. Okay, Jim, happy bucks. Go.
Had a great 43rd birthday. It was excellent. And got captured by my father. Long story, but I'm going back to Uganda the end of February, beginning of March. So looking forward to that, and I'll give more updates as they go.
Yeah. Okay. I got cards. Any other happy bucks? Ryan's digging. I like that. I like that.
The happy buck for, well, this is my guest, which is one of my daughters. I got to come here with me today to introduce her to the Lions. This is Claire. She is a sophomore at St. Edward's University in Austin, Texas. And the other dollars for having all my kids home for Christmas break. Now they're starting to scatter again.
Claire, welcome. Good Irish name. I like that. Somebody collect these tickets here. I'm coming over to this table here. Shelley. Okay, Bob Snyder, he's gonna be, Lynn's got a little, what's this for?
That's a happy buck.
Well, I understand, but you gotta tell us.
Okay.
I'm due to be a great grandfather for the first time. A little girl. The due date is today.
Oh. You're understanding, yeah. Wonderful. Gary's reaching. This is for the Bears.
This is for the Bears.
Oh.
The NFC North Division champions.
The Bears.
Okay, even though they didn't beat the Lions Sunday, we'll see about beating the Packers Saturday. 'Cause that will be
Absolutely.
worth a
Please
big-
do.
Wait, get out another dollar.
Okay.
$100, okay.
Lions float.
Oh, yeah, did everybody watch the Lions float on TV in the parade?
Yeah.
I'll get some change.
Talk to the secretary. If I get your cards here?
Yes, the Lions float, which was an award winner. They won actually the best volunteer award for the floats. So they give out like 5 or 6 awards to the floats and the orange boat. The orange boat?
The Rose
Orange bowl.
Bowl.
Rose Bowl. Not the orange bowl, the Rose,
Different color.
different state.
Last time they won was like 4 years ago, so that was good.
That's all I got. Backwards.
We gotta do the raffle. Hey, Rob. Any of their twelve.
Oh, yeah, this too. Oh, did you come? So Rotary.
Where's your white check?
Do we know how much is in here?
I
I gotta record that.
About 300.
About 300 bucks. The whole thing? Here, how about we have air? Oh, air.
Oh, that's not the winner.
Well, you know, it's survival of the fittest.
Wait a minute.
She's got one.
She's got one.
Okay, read the numbers.
336525.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. And then how about we have our speaker draw the other?
You know what? You're gonna get $5. You're gonna get $4.
I know. I know that.
It's a buck coming in the woods gonna give you that.
I was gonna give you the 5, but now I'm not.
And then our other number is 336404.
404.
Hey, that's me.
Ooh, no pressure. All right, Jim, all you gotta do is get the ball.
I've been considering this an investment all year. So.
I like this one. Oh, this goes back.
No.
Go back in. Well, that's how we got to shorten the pot.
About 5 years.
Thank
why it's only-
So the most you know, it was like, all right.
And then as a reminder, since next meeting is in February, what color do you wear?
Red. Which I don't own any of. Okay, and I'm gonna have Mr. Steve Mulder come up and introduce our speaker.
Well, I subscribed to the New York Times and saw a little blurb this morning that was kind of apropos for the meeting today. This little article listed the technology terms that it claims were new terms in 2025. And a few other terms that were just recent terms slightly before 2025. And most of them I've never heard of before. They are the UGC, the AGI, the RAG, the multimodal NPU, vibe coding, agentic, magic Q. Never heard of those things, but they're supposedly all new technology terms for 2025. There was one term that I was familiar with, and that is AI factory, which according to the Times, the AI factories are simply put data centers. And that's what we're going to hear about today, the data centers. Some people say that the data centers are really the next wave of magic and the largest increase in technology in the history of the world. There's some other people that say that the data centers basically are kind of an ugly face of the new technology. So I'm not sure how we're going to come out on that, but it's one thing is certain that it's moving towards the future. So our speaker today is Ben Anema. Ben is a Calvin College grad. He's a Michigan State University College of Law grad, and he is an attorney at Mike Myers in a local law firm in town, just probably a little ways that away and on the other side of the river. So please join me in welcoming Ben as our speaker today.
Thank you very much, Steve. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
My voice projects pretty well too, so I might not even, can you guys hear me in the back? All right. Well, thank you guys for having me today. It's very nice of Steve to reach out and ask if I would come speak. I've been on a bit of a media blitz in the last week. I've spoken to Wood TV8 and WGVU, been on Wood Radio a couple times. So it's been very fun to see people suddenly taking an interest in such a riveting topic as local zoning. But as people are becoming aware, local zoning might not be something you think about that often until all of a sudden you find yourself thinking about it a lot. So as Steve mentioned, the AI revolution, as it's kind of called, has really been taking off in the last couple of years. And with increased use of AI, there's also an increased need for these data centers that allow it to function and to do things like help you find better results in your web browser, or like ChatGPT, where you can ask it questions and have it come up with a list of a workout schedule or a song list, whatever you might want it to do for you. And so that requires these massive data centers to harbor all the computer systems that are going to be used to both store the data, but then also to compute and give an output. So what happened last year and into the early, well, I guess now it's technically 2 years ago, is the end of 2024 and then through to spring of 2025, Governor Whitmer and the rest of the legislature decided that it was going to be an imperative thing for them to find a way to bring these data centers to the state of Michigan. And so to do that, and this is sort of why we've seen such a recent increase in these data centers. They are exempt as long as they follow some conditions. They're exempt from both the state sales and the state use tax, which is 6%, I believe, for both. So it's a big incentive to bring data centers here. And since that's been finalized, we now have really started to see both proposals and also approved planned data centers. In fact, there is one data center outside of Ann Arbor, about 13 miles in Saline Township, that represents the largest economic investment in Michigan's history. It's a $7 billion investment in a 250 plus 250 plus acre planned project. It has been approved by the Saline Township Board, and it is scheduled to break ground sometime this year. The concerns that people have, that I will try to break this up a little bit now that we've kind of gone through the background on why they're coming here.
it's important, I think, to talk a little bit about sort of some of the concerns that people have regarding the data centers. The data centers obviously use tremendous amounts of electricity. And there's questions about what impact that will have on other consumers, other electrical consumers, whether that will increase their rates. Of course, there will need to be tremendous beefing up of the electrical grid and the infrastructure here in Michigan. A lot of people are concerned about that. They've been voicing those concerns with their township, their local governments. But the electrical usage, the rates are all set by the Michigan Public Service Commission. So that really is not something that's dealt with much by local government. But the Michigan Public Service Commission has had to approve DTE's proposal for that saline data center that I mentioned, sort of a hyperscale data center. And Consumers Energy has been before the MPSC as well to get approval on how they are going to structure their energy, their infrastructure, their rates. They've had to make a bunch of concessions in how they're going to structure these sorts of supplier contracts with the data centers. So, for example, the Michigan Public Service Commission was incredibly concerned that these data centers might come in, demand heavy amounts of electricity, the grids would be beefed up, and then whether due to a bubble, whether due to a lack of investment, they would just, leave, essentially. There was fear that maybe they would leave before they were ever able to get full use out of these infrastructure upgrades. And so there are certain provisions there that the electrical contracts that they sign are going to be very long, 15 years, that there are going to be exit penalties if they leave early, that there's going to be guaranteed amounts of money that they have to pay throughout the 15-year term, that they have to pay for the infrastructure costs that they incur if they decide to cancel these contracts early. So there's a lot that goes on that electricity side, and it's really outside of sort of what my specialty is a bit, but it's worth considering because, as Michael Myers represents a lot of townships, these are the sorts of concerns that we get from residents regarding this. But more applicable to sort of the local government, and maybe what you guys would be exposed to is zoning, and what that sort of means and how that works for these data centers. And if you don't know, most of the state is, well, all of the state is split up into various zoned districts. And within each district, there are certain permitted uses, meaning that you don't have to get any special approval besides maybe a site plan to do these things. And then there are what's called special land uses. And special land uses are allowed in the zoning district, but you have to go and you have to get permission or permit from your local government. So an example of this would be, if something's zoned as agricultural, there may be a list of things such as most sorts of farm uses that could be agricultural. But maybe if there's an industrial, agricultural kind of hybrid, that would be under special land use. And you could only do that if you got approval from your local government. What makes this whole data center issue difficult is that because it's so new, there really are no zoning districts with permitted or special land uses that allow for data centers, at least not of this scale. Michigan's had data centers, but not anything close to the size that we're now seeing proposed. Nothing close to these $7 billion projects that are going in saline. What that means is that, assuming that a developer can find a willing seller, somebody who has enough land to sell, they still have to decide, is this zoned in a way that we can actually build what we want to, or do we have to go through the township or the village or the city? Do we have to go through the bureaucracy to figure out and try to get our property rezoned in such a way that we can, build our use? And that's really what you see in the headlines recently, because as these developers, I'll just use the Gaines Township proposed data center as an example. It's where I'm from. Microsoft purchased a parcel of land in Gaines Township, and they hope to turn that into a big data center. But it's not zoned correctly. It needs to be zoned light industrial. And under the light industrial provisions, they would be able to have a data center there. But it's not currently zoned for that. So they have to petition the township board to rezone that. And that sort of starts the zoning or the rezoning process, which I'll talk about briefly here. Once a petition to rezone a parcel of land is brought, this is very riveting stuff, I know. But once it's done, once a petition is brought, that generally goes to the Township Planning Commission. The Township Planning Commission is different than the Township Board. But what the Planning Commission does is they will take a look at the proposal. They will consider and they will look at the Township Master Plan for how the community kind of wants everything spread out. And then they will consider and they will make a recommendation to the township board as to whether the rezoning should be accepted or whether the rezoning should be denied. Township board's not obligated to follow their advice either way, but generally they do. And what we've seen recently is part of that planning commission review, one of the requirements under Michigan law is to have a public hearing. A public hearing is different than just showing up at your local township's public meetings. Those, of course, are also open to the public, but a public hearing has special notice requirements, meaning that they have to notify every landowner and land occupier within 300 feet of the affected parcel. They have to notify them that there's going to be a special public hearing where they can come and speak, voice their approval, disapproval of the potential rezoning. And that's what we saw in Gaines Township recently. They had a public hearing and over 200 people showed up for the public hearing. They had to reschedule due to fire hazard issues. So there's obviously a tremendous amount of public interest in these sorts of things, especially if they're going in your local area. And that sort of also then brings up, I think, as we're thinking about what the public can do and what, showing up at their meetings, yes, but there's other avenues that the public can engage in to show their support or show their disapproval of it. One is if a township does in the end decide to approve a planning commission's recommendation and approve a rezoning, there is a referendum procedure for rezonings that residents can engage in. They can circulate petitions, and if they get a certain threshold of signatures within a voting district, then they can get this issue, the rezoning, put onto a ballot, and that could be voted on by the community. But outside of that, there really is not a ton that can be done besides the political process of voting, showing up at the local meetings, things of that nature. It's just a very interesting issue as well, because I think a lot of residents really wish that their township board could just outright ban the data centers coming in. But that also is illegal under Michigan law. Under Michigan law, a township cannot be, it's called exclusionary with their zoning processes, meaning that they cannot just, for no reason, deny a valid use to exist in their community. So instead, what their options are limited to is having reasonable restrictions in place that give the data developer an option to say, well, essentially it's the township saying we want to have these certain water use restrictions in place, and we want to have decibel level restrictions in place on the operating frequency that you guys are going to be doing. What times of day are you going to be running at what decibel, and restrictions like that. Once those are put in place, as long as they're reasonable, those do not count as exclusionary zoning. And then the developer is left with the decision of, do they want to try to bring their project into conformity with the local restrictions, or do they want to find a township that maybe is a little bit more lax on those restrictions and would allow them to operate at a louder noise level or use more water. So that sort of is sort of the zoning aspect of this, and we'll sort of see how that ends up playing out in these various townships and see what each board is going to do, whether they're going to approve these or not. But what I will mention is that in that big development in Saline that I mentioned, initially the township board, the planning commission initially voted to deny the rezoning, and the township board followed that advice and also voted down the petition for rezoning. The developer filed suit. The developer alleged exclusionary zoning. They ran sort of a public relations campaign as well, highlighting the amount of local tax revenue that would be generated. I think they stated it would generate about $8 million worth of tax revenue per year for just the local school district alone. So we're talking about a lot of money that townships can get from this. And then also they offered to donate millions of dollars to farmland preservation and the local fire department system and all things like that, sort of these public utility and other public work investments. And as a result, the township decided to settle that lawsuit, and one of the conditions of the settlement was to approve the project, and so that is why that is going forward. So there are really real, it can be difficult to say no to these data centers, especially if the reason for doing so runs afoul of Michigan law, specifically with regards to exclusionary zoning. maybe, some of you might be more familiar with an issue sort of like gravel pits, which are a bit kind of an analogous situation to the data centers in that many communities try very hard to keep gravel pits out of their area. And were unsuccessful in doing so. That was in large part because the government, the state legislature has stated that the only way to justify denying a gravel pit in your area is to show that there are very serious consequences, which is a very high standard to prove if you're a local government. So that, of course, is a statutory heightening of the standard. We haven't seen that yet with data centers specifically, but there is potential that as a result of some of these cases being, there being suits filed over them, that maybe a court will weigh in and establish some sort of standard that a local government would have to prove to keep these data centers out. But that sort of remains to be seen, as this is a really kind of cutting edge development or area of development in the law. And there really have not been much ground broken on any of these projects. This Saline one is supposed to break ground this year, but we'll sort of see what ends up happening with the other ones. And of course, there are many reasons why local governments can be or ought to be concerned about these in their areas. Yes, there are tremendous potential benefits in terms of the local revenue that they can generate. But of course, there's also tremendous water usage. These data centers use tremendous amounts of water. Microsoft has stated that they can use closed loop systems, and that due to Michigan's climate, they'll be able to cool the computer systems with a lot of the outside air, as our climate is cold for much of the year. And then water circulating through on a closed loop system will help alleviate some of the consumption of water. But they do use a lot of water either way, and the electrical usage is also quite high. So there are many reasons why a local government would at least want to have restrictions in place. But as I mentioned, this is kind of a new frontier. And so we will sort of see where this all ends up going. But I expect that it will continue to be in the news, especially as people continue to have record amounts of turnout for their public hearings, for their local public comment. And that sort of is the state of where we were at with the data centers at this point. So I'm happy to take questions if you guys have any. Yes, we do.
Could you just remind me of the lead companies are involved?
So that one is OpenAI and it's Oracle are the backers. Although the developers, I believe, are those big tech companies. The big tech companies will work with a local developer, or sometimes I think in that case they brought an out-of-state developer in to try to get all that done.
And then I was curious too, what stage of the process is the old township?
I do not believe anything has been passed in the Lowell Township one. I believe that there was a petition for a rezoning and there was a proposed data center to be there. But from what I understand, there was a lot of community kind of outcry about that being in their area, similar to the Gaines one. And I believe that there's another proposed data center in Door. Those are sort of the three big ones that I know of that are currently that are going through their planning commission. Oh, a lot of hands went up. I saw you first.
Yeah, did you know on the Gaines Township one, do they use Grand Rapids water so they can access water through Lake Michigan versus like Lowell Township uses groundwater? So it's a big difference in that regard. Is that the case with Gaines Township? Do they use Grand Rapids water?
I am not certain if this data center has in their proposal said that they are going to use Grand Rapids water, but I know that in that area, I believe that connection to Grand Rapids water is possible. And I would assume that most townships would want to have requirements in sort of their restrictions that any data center would be connected to the public water system, the municipal water system. Because especially if you were in a county like Ottawa, where you have concern over your aquifer levels, and you wouldn't want a data center drilling wells and taken from the aquifer. So that is a consideration that local governments will have to make, and are the types of restrictions that they can make when thinking about a data center coming to their area. If your hand up, yes.
You mentioned the benefit to the townships with property taxes, and obviously deployment during construction. What's typically the long-term deployment of these centers?
Probably not that high. I know that they will bring in tremendous amounts of employment in the construction phase. Part of what they have, so under the tax exemptions that they get at the state level, they have to meet a couple requirements. One is that they have to have at least $250 million in investment. And another is, I believe it's 30 employees that they have to have for the life of their exemption that are paid at, it might be 150% the median income in their area, and something along those lines. So they do at least have to have some level of employment carrying through. But these data centers don't have the same sorts of on-staff personnel requirements that other industrial uses would have of that scale, which is not ideal for employment in your area, although it doesn't contribute to heavy amounts of traffic that you maybe otherwise would see if you had like a large manufacturing plant come in where you had shift workers leaving 3 different times throughout the day, some very early in the morning. So that's sort of where it is, but they do not require that many full-time on-staff employees while they're running. Yes.
You mind talking a little bit about some of the challenges related to power? Have DTE talked about what they're going to need to do to accomplish the draws that are required by these data center projects?
They have, and there's some skepticism, I think, at the Michigan Public Service Commission about whether they were going to be able to meet the needs, but they went before the MPSC and stated that we do have, there's specifically, DTE specifically went through the MPSC for that Saline Township one. It was a hyper-specific thing that they went for, whereas Consumers has gone before. Consumers has a larger territory, Consumers has more proposed data centers. But DTE said that they would be able to provide enough power for it. I believe their contracts were 19 years that they had as opposed to Consumers 15. And of course, that also came with a lot of those same conditions on, minimum payments for their electricity per month, regardless of how much the data center actually uses, meaning that if they're under what they were projected to use, they're still going to have to pay what they were projected. They're going to have to pay for early termination, but their energy agreement was approved by the MPSC. So,
Full disclosure, I work for a company that's owned and operated data centers in Michigan.
oh, okay.
So it is kind of fun hearing my very niche thing talked about very broadly. Yeah, the challenges with power have been a big topic discussion.
Yeah. And there's been huge concern too about whether that will end up raising rates for other consumers in the area, which I think for Consumers Energy, which would sort of be for us here on the west side, Consumers went before the MPSC and said that they would like to have, they have these certain proposed data centers, like to move forward with them. And the MPSC told them to do some studies on how they would do their rate scheduling, how they would, allocate the costs, the increased costs, but they do seem really keyed in on making sure that other consumers are not, having to pay an increased rate as a result of the data centers. So, but they have not come back with their studies yet on what their rates will be. So, as you probably know.
It's tough.
Any other questions? To Hero, go right here first, Gary.
We have the data center switch in currently, how long has that been there now?
I am not sure, but it's probably been 4 or 5 years.
Almost 7 years.
Yeah, 7.
So has there been negative history from them being there? Has there been any negatives for that township, for that area?
We're not the Gaines Township attorney, so I can't say.
I'm just wondering if
exactly.
you've heard of any.
I have not heard of it.
Okay. Because you already have a model there of what seems to have worked.
Right, right.
And I would think they'd have something to go by.
Correct. And there is other industrial use in that area that's proposed by Gaines. So it wouldn't be like the Saline Township data center was empty farmland prior to the, this changeover to the data center. It was, which is why a lot of residents in the area were concerned that it was changing the agricultural nature of their area. But in the Gaines Township one, it is an industrial area. There's an Amazon plant there, steel case plants. So, and as you mentioned, the switch data center as well. Steve, did you have a question?
Since that I've read, there are massive data centers going in the southwest part of the country. So is the Michigan sales tax and use tax statute that was passed a big part of the reason for all the recent activity in this area?
Yes, I believe so, and that was the intended purpose for them. That was, I mean, they were intended to bring big data centers to town and very shortly after. I mean, we're talking about these exemptions being approved and signed into law. I think as recently as spring of this year, and without wasting any time. Oracle and OpenAI came with the largest investment in Michigan's history pretty much immediately after. So, and that has been touted by both the Michigan legislature and our governor as a direct result of these exemptions that they have signed into law. Any other questions? Yes.
Do they not also install a lot of generators for these sites that use the fuel probably natural gas? It's usually diesel. Yes. If it fuel.
Sure. No, go ahead. You may know better than I, so.
LNG. Typically, it has to match the heat. So, yes, it depends on whether the trend was a sub.
Okay, it's for noise, right?
The significant though.
Is that the reason why they're the noise? I keep seeing that, but there's noise and service.
Well, noise, there's a noise that just comes from the operating of the facility as well. I think I saw on, I think it was Door Township's website, they had posted some sort of brochures from Microsoft, which seems to be geared directly towards residents of these areas they're coming in that are kind of FAQs on what to expect. And they mentioned that, you know, depending on the noise restrictions in the local area, they can do things to reduce the noise. I think there's been, you know, Virginia's had a lot of data centers as well. And the feedback from the residents who live in these areas is kind of mixed. Some say it's not very bad noise wise. Others say that it's, you know, it's miserable. It's a constant hum, constant drone that they can't ever, you know, escape. But there are ways that a data center can mitigate the noise levels and reduce it, whether it be through, you know, noise absorbent things, through berms, things to reflect the sound. So. Any other questions? Oh, yeah.
I just, since you hear a lot about Pennsylvania being a stronghold for these AI centers or just construction or whatever. Well, is that a competition or like what Michigan is looking at?
I'm not sure, but I do know that, of course, you know, the developers are going to go where they have the most, you know, where it suits their interests to be. So if you can come to Michigan and you get 6% exemption on your sales and use tax, on top of that, you save money in cooling because the climate is cold. Of course, with Pennsylvania, their climate's cold also, so that's not really an advantage that we have over them. But we do have water in excess of it. So there are lots of.
I heard that this year there was a large amount, like billions of dollars provided by the federal government to Pennsylvania area.
There has been federal government involvement in sort of investment in the data center project. I'm not sure specifically with regards to Pennsylvania, but if you told me that, I wouldn't doubt you. So
Yeah, no, I'm just curious. I don't know, maybe.
Well, Pennsylvania's out of my camp.
Oh, okay.
Well, thank you guys very much.
Thanks.
Get a little first aid kit.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you for coming. Okay, that's it. Next lunch meeting Tuesday, February 3rd. See you there.
We're red.
Wear red. Buy red if you don't have it, I guess. I said buy.
I got a shirt.